Hello and welcome to Caching Waves. This is an update for Bitcoin. Just wanted to discuss a few things about this chart. Now, first of all, if our high is in and our B wave is complete, I pulled the fibs again, we'd expect our target to be somewhere around 23,348 on Bitstamp. But I just wanted to make a couple things clear. This has been one of the most frustrating corrections I've traded in this market over the last year. It's just been super complicating. Nothing is clear at the moment, just because there's so many options here. And one of the most difficult waves that's been bugging me to figure out is right in here. I know there's a way to count this as like a super long 4, but then this looks like a zigzag and has to have a super short 4 down there on the micro. It's a really ugly count. So I've been sticking with this as a leading diagonal, a wave 2, 3 down, hit the 1.618 extension to the T, had a deep 4 and a just slightly lower low 5th, and I have this as the bottom of our A wave. I like that a lot better than this as a 4th, but it might be proven otherwise that I'm wrong in the future. But that's the count I've preferred since the beginning. Off that, we had an expanded flat for a W wave, then an X wave, and either a zigzag or a flat for our Y wave. So I wanted to show you a couple things that I'm paying attention to. So we had this trend line here and we're bumping up against it right now, and at the exact same point you can see how important this area is. We're at the top of our resistance here on this correction, so both those things are interconnecting right here. So the question is, do we get rejected and get our C wave, which our current 1-to-1 extension off the last high is at 23,348, or do we correct here is like an ABC and take off? Because once we beat this high, I would imagine we go much higher if we don't hold this as our B wave right here in this area. We're also at the 786. We're very close to it. On log scale, you can see everything lines up except for this trend line down here. Everything's here. We got our resistance. We got our 1.382 extension for our second ABC in our Y. We're at the 786 and we're at that resistance. So it's a pretty interesting spot to see what ends up happening here. You can see all those lined up. It hit it to the tick, all that area, or very close to it overnight. So just trying to figure out the best course of action from here. So again, this is our WX and we had a Y, and the only way I have this finishing currently is in 5 waves. I had to recount that, but it's kind of a stretch. It's very ugly, but this whole thing's been ugly and difficult. So just wanted to show you that count. This would be a wave 1, either a flat or a triangle for a wave 2. Then we had 5 waves up for a 3. I'll show you real quick on this third. I was down literally at the 1 minute to see it, which I hate doing, but I just wanted to see if it's possible. So down at the 1 minute, I wanted to see if this was a 3 or a 5 from that super crazy spike, and it looks like a 3-wave ABC. So have that as a 3-wave and not a 5, this spike down, but you had to go down to the 1 minute to see that wave. So if that's the case, if this is a 3-wave and we ended up making 5, again, very hard to do earlier in the week because you have to consider this to be a triangle. I saw it as a 3 with a triangle after, and then a 5, like a flat, right? 3, 3, 5. But since we got this last wave up, I have to consider the alternatives, and which is the ones over here, and we had our running triangles. And this ends up being a 3. We get a 4 in here and our 5th wave up to complete our Y wave and bigger B wave in the bearish scenario. So where do we have to count our 5 from, right? One thing I looked at was, again, this spike really screwed a lot of things up. You can count this as a triangle, but you have to ignore the wick. You can see you have to ignore the wick because this is 3 waves down at the 1 minute level, but I'm not a big fan of it whatsoever. So that would look like this, and then we get our A, B, C, D, E, and then you can see we have 5 waves up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that completes our B wave. 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's small 5 waves there. So that would put our 4th wave right here. So that's the completed scenario where we're complete and we're expecting that move down to 23.5-ish area at the moment, and we do not make a higher high with all those, that resistance, the 786, the 1.382 extension off our second ABC. That's our target. So that's that method. Okay, the other way I would have to consider this is if this is the ABC, right, as a flat, and this is our last high, then this, since this started with 3 and it's not a triangle, we'll say, then this would be the flat scenario we discussed yesterday, where we get a 3, 3, 5 as a expanded flat or a running flat, and then we make more upside, have to recount this whole back correction, which is very difficult, as you've seen. So that's my second scenario. Either we've topped in our B wave, or we're just going to make higher highs in corrective natures, similar to this. We just keep correcting to the upside, and all these corrections get bigger. And the other alternative is this is somehow 5 waves, which I don't like at all, right here, and our low is over here. And this is some sort of leading diagonal, which looks ugly as hell. We haven't stayed within a uptrend channel, which we'd usually expect. We'd expect something like this, and then we come down for 618 and go something like this, but we didn't get that, so I don't really like it. I mean, it's technically valid, but then our high would be somewhere around here, and it's more of an expanding diagonal, right? In which case you'd expect at some point to come back down to the 618, right, and continue. Or you can have a 1, 2, 1, 2 and really taking off from here, but our second 1, 2 is bigger in time. You can see it's taking more time, which is a really rare thing to happen. So I just wanted to show you how annoying this whole area is, but it doesn't mean you can't trade it. So what I'm considering is there's a possibility we get another wave up and we double top this. If it's not the triangle, then our bottom's here, and we can get a, if it's not the triangle, then this is a AWX, and we'd expect 5 here. So this would be making a flat, a 3, 3, and we'd expect 5 over here if we're making this flat pattern, and that could be a 1, 2, 3, making a 4th in here, and 5 to a new high. Hope that makes sense to you. But if it's the triangle, then our 4th is over here. We already have 5 waves. So you can see the annoyance of all these patterns at play in this direct area. So it looks like we could have 5 in, right? 1, 2, 3, probably a triangle, A, B, C, D, A, E, 4, 5. This could be a triangle. So does that look correct? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, looks like it can be in play. Good extensions there. Looks at least to the 1.618, which you'd expect in an impulse. Yeah, we hit the 1.618 and made a new low. And it looks like we are on our wave 2. And we're at the 50 right now. So I'm going to leave it up to you to make your decision. I'm going to be scalping this, which I can't really show on these videos because it's very short time frames. But to give you some information about when you're very unclear in a structure, what I will do is tend to let the market decide with my entry. It's just a little different way I trade when I'm very unclear. And what that is if this is our ABC. You might have seen me discuss this in the triangle scenarios. If this is our ABC, I won't look for my long here. There's pros and cons to this, and I'll explain those to you in 1 second. So the way this would work is you wait for this correction to complete, but you let the market trigger you in. So if this was a impulse, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we shouldn't expect to come back to this B level, right? But if this is a correction, we expect to be complete soon, and we just collapse. So what I do is to avoid this impulse, I won't put my entry till this B wave is broken. So if we just continue to come up and we get that 5th wave, I won't even be in the market at all, right? It will not even let me get into the market. But if my read is correct, that B wave should break. We break support and continue to the downside pretty quickly. So what I'm going to do in my scalping down at like the 5 minute and the 1 minute is I'm going to put a market entry order a couple ticks below this B wave. So it has to break that support. You find that right on. You'll have to look at your own exchange if you want to take a look how this works. But I might put my entry at like, it's at that bottom's at 29,419. I might put it at like 29,415. So it breaks below that B wave. So slightly below. And then I'll put my entry in. And my stop will go at that C wave high whenever it ends. So remember, I will not be in this trade until this B wave breaks itself. And what ends up happening in those scenarios is you end up breaking the trend line as well. Those of you that break trend line, that add trend lines to your thing, once you're in this trade, you've also broken that trend line, right? Which becomes resistance for your stop there, where you could get a 1-2 like that. So that's how I'm planning on entering this on the micro. And if this continues to the upside, obviously I won't be in the long. It's way too high up there right now to get in that long, in my opinion. But if we keep coming to the upside, I don't even get into this trade. And if we break this high, I completely get out of even my orders, right? Because the whole pattern's changed. But if we get that impulse to the downside, and when I'm scalping, I'm only playing one wave at a time. This wouldn't be a setup for all the way down to 23K. It would just be for the first wave 1 down. So I'd target the 1618 and between the 2 and the 2.236. So I'd be looking for something like this. It's my target. Let me get rid of that. Be looking for something like this. And the reason why I take profit there is we have our problem where this can become a flat and we get further upside after. So I'd want to pay attention what happens after this, because if we get this, remember this can be a 1-2. We should get a retracement up there, be able to get clarity of whether this wave is impulsive or not, or corrective. But if it's a bottom, we should just take off, right, and get our correction sideways, and we can be like, okay, this is a good trade to the upside. So that's if we get this pattern. Nothing says we have to get this. Remember, we can just keep going up from here. But that's how I'm going to trade this. I know some of you wanted some more information on that, but on the micro, 1 minute, 5 minute charts, this is how I'm going to trade this. I'm going to wait for the break of the B. Now the negative sides to this that tend to happen is this is where you can lose. So if we come down from here, we break my low, and then we hesitate and we come back up like this. My entry, it got triggered. That's why I like to put it a little bit lower than the B. My entry got triggered. I got stopped out here. We came up to the 618, and then we turn over. That's how you can lose in these trades, which is frustrating, but I'd probably take the same entry up here, wait for the B wave or the break of the 4th, and retake another entry. Stop would be at this high. So I just want you to be aware that this is how the market can turn against you and then go the way you expected. But the reason I do these things is this gives me a higher position size. Because remember, I'm targeting something like this. Go to 3.7 to 1. Then if I put my stop at this high, which gives me half the return, that's why I do that. And if we come up here, I just take the exact same entry again, and I get my 3.7 to 1 again. But I'm not currently interested in just hopping in this trade right now to the short side. I've decided I want the market to come to me, enter me on that trigger, and stop will go at this high. That way we avoid the trade altogether if it just keeps coming up for another 5th wave. In the scenario I showed you where this is the bottom here, we need another wave up for 5 waves. But if the triangle's in, we're already complete. So I'm just going to play it safe at the moment and let this market come to me. And we'll see if we get it. Let me know if you like these longer form educational videos. And my couple tips that I've figured out over time to help me improve my trading. So that's what I'm looking for, guys. Looking for this short. I'd love to hit that 23,400 area so we can get some real clarity and get excited for a very big bull move into the end of the year. But at minimum, looking for this as long as the market triggers me in at this level around 29,415. Stop will go at the high whenever it ends. All right, guys, that's it for Bitcoin. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see my other setups. And we'll see you on the next one.